Hello, today we're going to be taking a look at item spawn point locations using dispensers. Pretty simple really, but a lot of people come to expect that when they play things like first-person shooter multiplayer, they're going to be in some sort of Slayer mode finding items that will help them kill people faster or get killed slower. So we're going to emulate that today using dispensers very simply in Minecraft. So what I just have here is a sort of puppet master's booth, as I've said before in my previous video, that has redstone wires coming from anywhere that you need to control in your map. And today we've hooked it up with some buttons that connect to dispensers for item drop zones. So let's say that the map just started out and you want your players to be well equipped. So first of all, instead of worrying about the drop zones for right now, your spawn points are also going to be important. So I just have a dispenser hooked up to a pressure pad in the spawn room with beds, so people basically just choose a spawn point, and you can have spawn points all over the map, preferably one per player so that you don't have people camping inside the spawn points, and then you just allow them to spawn with a weapon really. So you just give them like an iron sword in a dispenser, and then have a door that is one way, and of course you can have rooms specifically for team battles as well, where you have plenty of beds and one spawn point or something like that, but really it's best just to have spawn points all over the map. And then the one-way door just uses a pressure pad so that you can get out and that you don't have people walking into the spawn point and camping it. And in order to make it more secure, you can, instead of using a door and have a pressure pad in front of it, you can have a bunch of spawn points that drop from the ceiling using a water block under a ladder. So right here I've done that, and you would just do the same thing. You would grab all your items that you need, and then just once you have your starter equipment, whatever that your arena allows, you just jump down in, and it's a bit more secure in that you can't really tell if it's hidden well compared to the door. Of course, people are going to figure it out eventually, even if you have tons of spawn points all over your map hidden, but that's just what you'd expect from any spawn point system in any multiplayer games, that people are going to figure it out. But once the players are in the game, they need some better equipment so that it's more dynamic. So instead of having everyone with one bit of equipment, you can let the players who have lag, always search out the better equipment that help them to fight even in their particular circumstances. So, for example, if someone is taking a lot of damage, or you notice that your players are starting to obtain weapons that are a bit too powerful, like you've been dropping powerful swords and all of a sudden everyone's dying too quickly, you can compensate for that by just dropping armor in your map. And down here I have a dispenser that's near a wall and a ceiling. The great thing about dispensers is that they can shoot through one block, and if there's more blocks in the way, it just goes through the one block and has just sort of a short burst and then a fall. That way you just have your items falling in the middle of this corridor, and then you can just pick them up. You can just spawn one bit of items at a time, or a few items. And what I've done is something that would be great for server ops and such to do, and that's just to spawn about 64, 65, whatever, and just drop them in. That way you have a stack instead of having to refill it all the time. And then if you find that people are getting too much armor or something, you can just flip on the powerful weapons. For example, we have a diamond sword, and what this is doing, instead of going through the ceiling, is it's going through the air, and I just have this pointing over top of the map. That way there's a huge mosh pit of people going for the diamond sword whenever it spawns or whatever. So you just flip on the diamond sword, it falls in the middle of the map, and everyone has to come out of their hiding place, because really, if you have a bunch of campers and there's a diamond sword in the middle, they're going to be worried, because all of a sudden the melee people, if they reach them, even if they're using a bow, they're going to be in danger, because diamond swords really pwn hard. So then they're going to have to fight for it, and you won't have as many campers. Or you might have a new camper with a diamond sword, but, you know, that's when you spawn some more armor or something. And then we have a bow, and you just flick the switch, and here, instead of going through the ceiling and instead of going through the air, we have it going through a wall, because as I've said, they can shoot through one block, so it's just shooting a bow onto this balcony, and again, you can just store stacks of bows. And then the problem with the arrows is they can't be dispensed, so they have to be dropped manually, which is great, because then you can drop whatever the map currently needs. For example, if there aren't many archers around the map right now, you can maybe want someone who has more arrows or something, so you just drop maybe like half a stack of arrows, have them fall into a water channel, go down over the ceiling, and then have them fall from a block of water hidden by a, well, not hidden but held up by a sign, and then onto the balcony. So when someone gets here, they have a bow and arrows. And something else you can do with the dispensers is just attach them to a quick timer and just have a constantly spewing stuff, which would be great for building maps. Now, as I've always said, if you're going to build a PvP map like this, you want protection of some sort. Always use protection. That way you don't have people breaking through any of your redstone or walls or whatever. However, if you have built your entire place out of obsidian and everything's hidden, then you don't have to worry about that, and you can have fun with TNT, and you can have fun with a lot of other crazy, very dangerous things, such as building. And one of my favorite types of arenas would be obsidian arenas, where you're allowed to build, and there are certain blocks that you're allowed to build with, such as dirt or something, and what you can do is just have these constantly spewing out dirt or something to use. So in a bit I'll show you how to quickly build up one of those, but for now I'm just going to flip this switch and show you one more thing, and that is I flip this a couple times and we get some cooked pork. I haven't put a sign up there, but it's cooked pork, and basically it's doing the same concept, and that is just the spawn point is right here in this room, because I just have a dispenser hidden behind a wall, and it's just spewing them into the room. From up top here. And you can also use dispensers and pistons if you want them to go upward or something. For example, upward into a water stream or something like that, but this isn't really a pistons video, but it would be very nice. It could be useful. But it's very simple, you know, it's just popping out in here. You can hide it behind whatever you want. You could just put a painting in front of it, it doesn't really matter. And I'll just show you a quick timer build. So let's say you do want to have your items spawning at certain intervals, for example raw pork or something, whatever you want. I would advise doing this for builder maps, where you have the entire arena made out of obsidian, and you're allowing people to build structures for defensive, like maybe waves, like maybe you have a round where you build and a round where you get attacked, and you try to build something that will help you defend against the attack, use all your resources effectively, etc. Well, the great thing about it is, since you need a bunch of stuff, it doesn't really matter if you have it tied to a constantly spawning machine. So you can set up a pulse generator really easily. You just need to put a really long line of repeaters and just have them in this sort of pattern. You can have them in different patterns, whatever, but just put them on their highest value. And of course you're going to want to make it more if you're using something like pork that you are not going to have massive stacks of, or need for massive stacks of, since they don't stack anyway. Oops. But you just hook it up like this, and then you can sort of siphon off a bit of this power, So maybe right here, I guess. And then you can hook this up to an AND gate, possibly my favorite type of gate, as it should be yours. And just throw the torches here, torch in the front, that there, and then just have a switch on the side that makes sure that it's only active whenever you're in a round or whatever. Then you just have it going off onto a dispenser, and then you just throw, I don't know, like let's say you're using dirt, just throw a bunch of dirt in there. And then you just have another switch to kickstart the process. So you just click, and then it's constantly pulsing. Of course, if you want a lot of materials, if you have a lot of people on the map, you might want to have multiple dispensers it's hooked up to, or they want it to go faster or whatever. And you're going to want it a lot longer if you're using something that you only need one of, like armor or something. And what you also might want to do is just make a really massive one of these and just hook it up to all your stuff. So you can have it coming off to, you know, just off of this and have it going up to another dispenser. That way, if you had a piece of armor or something and a sword, one could be dropping one could be dropping swords, and one can be dropping whatever, you know. And that way your entire map is just linked up to one centralized timer. That way you don't really need tons of timers for everything. That would be kind of ridiculous. But then you just flick on the AND, see, and then once it pulses, it hits the AND gate, and because you've turned the switch on, it turned the spawn rate on, and that way you're not wasting stuff whenever you are not in combat or a round has ended, and you want to turn off all the stuff in the map whenever it's ended. As I said, it's great if you have all your stuff hooked up to one area, because then you just have one switch, and you can put the switch wherever you want. So I would suggest this if you want to automate it, but I really like having a Puppet Master's booth on the map. The only thing I really wish we had was dispensers, where you can use a text box and tell how much you want and say to dispense instead of to fire. That way we can have arrow dispensers set on timers and stuff, so that you can get like a stack of 32 arrows instead of, you know, one item, and, you know, if it's an arrow it fires. There should be a safe, you know, a dispense, a fire, and a smart mode on dispensers, as well as a text box to determine how many you fire. But without those, this kind of works with the arrow drop zones and whatnot. But I really like the Puppet Master's booth because, you know, you can make the whole play experience a lot more interesting. For example, you can hook up a dispenser next to this one. This is the armor dispenser. You could have like a diamond and an iron dispenser. That way whenever you see a lot of people dying fast, or you have a lot of people on the map and you want the mini fights to last longer, instead of like 3 people on one team ganging up on one person and taking them down in a matter of a couple seconds, you can just start dropping more expensive armor or something, and you can make the whole gameplay a lot more dynamic. If someone has a diamond sword and everyone else has bows, you can spawn more swords or more armor, or if everyone's camping with their bows, you can start spawning more diamond swords, so everyone's rushing for it and no longer using the bows. So there's a lot of things you can do to make your item drop rate in your arena more dynamic. But for the most part, one of my favorite ways to do it is probably just to make a builder's map with building and fighting rounds, and use one of these sort of timed events for all your stuff. So, see you next time.